as organized by the Council for the Built Environment. I'm Mokhama Mongani, the CEO of CBE, and I will be serving as your program director for the day. Now, as the Council for the Built Environment, we are delighted to have you here with us today for this very important occasion. The theme for this year's Transformation INDABA is breaking the barriers. And of course, accordingly, this Transformation INDABA will specifically focus on various regulatory barriers to the transformation within the sector at large. So we will be hosting this today's session, starting accordingly from today. And we intend to have a very engaging and a very interactive session in this regard. And so during the course of these 2 days, we are going to apply our minds as we constructively interrogate various policies and the challenges therein. And of course, we're going to collectively formulate appropriate solutions there too. So that's in essence what we're going to be doing. Now, to get us started, it will be appropriate of us to begin with the procedural house announcements and a safety briefing. And accordingly, a representative from Deep and DeBelf will handle that briefing for us. So, Ms. Barna, please.
Good morning, everybody. From Deep and DeBelf, we'd just like to welcome you all and hope you enjoyed the 2 days with us. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. In case of emergency, just please follow the exits into the parking area, where we will gather all of you and ask for assistance. Then as well, for medical issues and so forth, you can just head on your way to reception from Mary, and then Mary will call the correct people to assist you. That will be all. Thank you.
We thank you very much for that important briefing. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, please allow me to call upon our acting chairperson of CBE, Ms. Mapefo Mohodi, who will officially open this occasion by handling the welcome address on our behalf. Ms. Mohodi, please.
Firstly, I prefer to be addressed as Mme Mohodi. I know that people tend to think that if we use the English title, then we are being relevant, but I think Mme Mohodi is also suitable, and that is the kind of title that I prefer. Thank you very much. Honorable MEC of Gauteng, Advocate Ramashodi, the DDGs, the DGs of the departments, chairpersons and CEOs of our sister entities and other various SOEs, presidents and registrars of built environment professional councils, presidents and CEOs of built environment voluntary associations and business councils, representatives from government departments, our sister entities, that is representatives from our sister entities, various SOEs, NGOs, institutions of higher learning, fellow professionals, built environment role players and stakeholders. Ladies and gentlemen, I greet you, and I extend a very warm welcome from the CBE and its council members. We want you to know that we highly appreciate your honoring our invitation, especially in recognition and acknowledgement that you found it in your hearts to accommodate this event within your already busy schedules. We are grateful. May it be that when you look back at this day in history, you will not shake your heads in disgust, but with a smile on your faces, you will recall your invaluable contribution that reshaped the course of history in this industry. Since its inception, the CBE has been inward-focused and never really engaged with its stakeholders except professional councils. Section 3H of the CBE Act requires us to serve as a forum where representatives of the built environment professions may discuss required qualifications, standards of education, training and competence, promotion of professional status, and lastly, legislation impacting on the built environment. 2017 ushered in a new era when the CBE decided to create this platform in the form of annual transformation indabas, that is to address, amongst other things, legislation that impacts on the built environment. This particular third annual transformation indaba talks to subclause 3H5, which is legislation, and we are here today to discuss about this. And what the COO or our program director has alluded to is that we need to interrogate. We are here to apply our minds. It is obvious to all of us in this industry that there are some invisible barriers to transformation. We all agree. We talk about it, we are frustrated, we murmur about it, we know that the transformation is not happening. In some quarters, they say there is slow transformation. What is slow transformation? It's either there is transformation or there is no transformation. And that is why we are here today, to talk about it. And we ask ourselves, yes, we know there are barriers, but what could this be? Because we are making assumptions about these barriers. All we are seeing is the result. But what is it that is hampering transformation in this industry? Is it legislation itself? Treasury will shed some light on that, as they will be presenting, to say, is this legislation that we have, is it benefiting the industry? Is it a hindrance? Is it creating barriers? Department of Public Works will talk about challenges. What challenges have been encountered in the implementation of transformation and empowerment policies? Because we have legislation. We are told that our legislation is one of the best legislations. Our policies are one of the best policies. But we do not see that in the results. So we want to find out what challenges are there. Why isn't it happening? What are the problems? Or is it that the industry has been captured by the enemies of transformation who want to maintain the status quo under the guise of legislative reforms? Why am I asking if the industry has been captured? Permit me to take you down memory lane, and I will be brief. This is a journey that was walked by DPW and industry professional groupings in the mid-1970s, 1990s, maybe 1996, 97. We started this journey with Public Works. DPW instituted what they called a roster, a pilot roster, because they wanted to test if this system will work in terms of appointing professionals on a fair basis. When that pilot roster was introduced, we were told, you can have your black companies, you will be top on the list because you already qualify, you don't have to worry about anything. We didn't know that there was a strategy to undercut the black professional. When the application forms came, they came with all kinds of questions, which naturally, as young businesses, emerging businesses, you could not answer all of those questions, and of course it was a point system. And what happened? Our companies ended up at the bottom end of the ladder, and the rest of the projects were created. And after that happened, then a proper roster system was introduced. The roster system was divided into two sections, the emerging and the established. The agreement was, you will appoint 3 emerging, 1, because the emerging businesses were not many. So you would appoint 1, 3 and 1, and 3 and 1, and before you know it, they would all be appointed, so the work can be shared amongst the established. The process went on. Department of Public Works established a task team, monitoring and evaluation task team, and the whole appointment process was monitored. It came time to evaluate if the system was working properly. And of course, we from Subtraco's side we did our own evaluation. And we found that actually the course of implementation changed along the way. The objectives were not met. And when we were supposed to meet and present our evaluation, we were never given a chance. All of a sudden we were told, no, there is another, we have introduced another leg to this. And that leg was recategorization of the companies. The permutations were unbelievable. And at the same time, we were told, no, we will hold the Monitoring and Evaluation Committee. Now, the Monitoring and Evaluation Committee was not supposed to only monitor the appointment of consultants. It was also supposed to monitor the implementation. But before we could even start, that was halted. Then we were told, don't worry, the department is going to have a transformation office, and there is a transformation officer, and everything will be hunky-dory. And that never happened. And then there was the introduction of the construction chapter. And then, of course, we know what has happened to that. Now, my view is that every time there is a system that is being introduced, we go along with the system, and when the system is no longer working, and we begin to murmur and we're uncomfortable and we want things changed, we have another carrot that is dangled in front of us. So we renew our hope, and we think things are going to change this time. But then we move along, nothing changes, and we realize, but this is not working. We need change. And then another carrot is being dangled. And that is why today we are sitting in an untransformed construction or built environment industry, because there was never an intention. Politically, yes, but in terms of implementation, that is why I'm saying that we have enemies of transformation because of the way things have gone. And now we are sitting with the Construction Charter Council, and we know that one of their mandates was to actually monitor transformation in the industry. But they have also been handicapped. And because we have these issues with the Construction Sector Council, they have given us a statement to give to the industry, because the industry is now asking questions. The industry is saying, what is happening? What is going on? So the statement that I'm going to read, no add, no subtract, is from the CEO, which he said, I must give you this message as the industry. And the message reads, following the non-approval by the DTI of the self-funding model that the CSCC had proposed, the CSCC is facing the risk of imminent closures as the funding from the DPW is drying up. However, the new Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure has reaffirmed government commitment towards transformation and has publicly committed support to the work of the CSCC. An engagement meeting with the Office of the Minister is scheduled soon, out of which a new commitment will be firmed going forward. So for now, this is the message from CSCC to say, let us wait, because there is a promise for us to rebuild. Now, in conclusion, I just want to say, one of our attendees, in fact, is a DDG from Public Works. When he was RSVPing, he sent this message. It is my wish that this Indaba be a fruitful one, in which a clear way forward is agreed upon to make a meaningful, impactful, tangible, and real change to the lives of those who want to be the Black Built Environment professionals. We should avoid a talk show that will see yet another year of slow transformation in the built environment industry, but serious measurable targets and plans to change the status quo. Efficaciousness should guide us. So as I am standing here, I'm saying tomorrow, we are having commissions. We require your participation. This is not going to be a talk show. We are going to have plans. We are going to have a way forward. We are going to have task teams that are going to carry this forward, because the general feeling is that we need legislative changes. We need to change the way we do business. And over and above all, we need things to be monitored. Because if you intend to change something, there must be a program. You must monitor, you must evaluate, and you must come up with corrective measures to ensure that you actually realize your objective. And with this, I want to thank you, and I say welcome. Let all be participative and see change the future for our children, because we don't want them to spit on our graves. This is the chance. Let us hold hands and let us do it together. I thank you.
Well, Memo Khodi, we thank you very much for that historic review. We have certainly, we now look forward to the rest of the program. So please give her another round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, this effectively brings us to the moment of anticipation, wherein the first keynote address for the day is to be delivered. So having said that, allow me to call upon Mr. Mohasa, who will effectively introduce the NEC in this regard. Mr. Mohasa, please.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, let me start by greeting the MEC for the Department of Infrastructure and Property Management, the Advocate Makura Matlodi, the Acting Chairperson of the CBE, the CEO of the CBE, the CEOs and chairs of the other professional councils and the public entities, the members of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, distinguished guests, good morning. Mine is very small. It's to introduce the Honorable MEC, and I would like to do that maybe first by just rendering an apology that our minister would have wanted to be here, including our deputy minister, because of the portfolio committee that is taking place. The minister has requested the MEC, who is also equally capable, to actually render this item of welcoming you to this prestigious INDABA. Ms. Tasnim Mutara is the Gauteng member of Executive Committee for Infrastructure, Development and Property Management. She is also a member of the Provincial Executive Committee of the African National Congress. Ms. Mutara served as a member of Parliament in the 5th Administration, having served in the National Council of Provinces, representing Gauteng as a provincial whip. Her responsibility as an MP was to liaise between the Gauteng Provincial Legislature and Parliament, as well as lead the provincial delegation of permanent delegates. She also served in various roles as a whip in multi-party caucus, as well as whip of both select committees of finance and appropriations. During this tenure, she also served as a member of the SADC Parliamentary Forum, as a member of the Trade, Infrastructure, Finance and Investment Standing Committee, and was elected to its Executive Committee for the period from 2016 to 2018. Before joining Parliament, she served on the Gauteng Advisory Board of the National Youth Development Agency as the Deputy Chairperson. Born and bred in Benoni, she completed a schooling career in Benoni High School and went on to pursue a degree in psychology. So be careful, she's a psychologist. After joining Parliament, she took a keen interest in economics and is currently completing a degree in economics, starting activism in the ANC at the age of 20. Ms. Mutara has led the ANC and the ANC Youth League in Benoni in various roles, leading the Youth League up to a provincial level in the Executive Committee up to 2013. She has also led the ANC in Ekurhuleni, serving in its Regional Executive Committee from 2014 to 2018. She has subsequently been elected to serve in the ANC Provincial Executive Committee, where she currently is a member of the working committee and is the spokesperson. A mother of 2 teenage daughters, probably very beautiful. Tasneem grew up in a big family, and family still remains extremely important to her. A part of a family that is actively involved in community work and participation, she lends her own interest and desire to make a change in people's lives to her own upbringing, having been exposed to living conditions of the poorest of the poor to the extremely wealthy. Her drive to be part of improving people's lives daily is what keeps her going. A hard-working, dedicated, and committed individual, Ms. Mutara puts all her energy and efforts in all she does. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome to the stage the Honorable MSc, Ms. Mutara.
Thank you very much, DDG. To the Program Director, the Acting Chairperson of the CBE, Mayor Mokhodi, former Minister of Public Service and Administration, Advocate Ramatlodi, Chief Executive Officer of the Council for Built Environment, Ms. Priscilla Mtlalosi, to our colleagues from the various government departments, Treasury, Water and Sanitation, Public Works and Infrastructure, and to the Commission for Gender Equality, as well as participants, professionals, delegates to this Indaba. Thank you very much for having me and allowing me this opportunity to address you and share some of my thoughts on a very important conversation, which is transformation in the sector. You'll just excuse me, I am getting flu, so my voice might fail me halfway through, but thank you very much. The CBE, which is the Council for the Built Environment, is an overarching body that coordinates the following 6 councils for the built environment professionals, which are architecture, engineering, landscape architecture, project and construction management, property valuation and quantity surveying. Is tasked with transforming the professions and the professional environment within which they operate. The CBE and 6 councils are required by their respective legislations to provide the public an opportunity, as well as professionals who don't comply with the required standards, putting them through that will put us as the public through any danger with the correct training, respective legislation that will allow these professionals to be able to perform their duties in ethical conduct. Some progress has been made, definitely, but I think 25 years post-democracy, we still have conversations around transformation in every sector, and I think the built environment is not divorced from that conversation. This sector definitely remains arguably one of the most untransformed in South Africa today, with many barriers to entry, as well as, and some have been listed, some as the optimal functioning of the regulatory environment, the public policy, as well as legislation that governs business in South Africa. Built environment professional service providers, and particularly those from historically disadvantaged communities, are on the most part negatively affected by these regulations. And I think for us in government and working with our colleagues and partners, we must use the tools at our disposal, which is legislation, to be able to enable as opposed to disable these professionals as well as the industry from transforming. In essence, transformation indicates change. This change can occur in various aspects, including structure, culture, products, or services. Diversity, and here I refer to race, age, gender, as well as your background, or simply doing things differently. Arguably, the term transformation may hold different meanings for various role players. The chaos of potential resistance and differing opinion created by the hype and buzzwords surrounding transformation and its intended outcomes can easily turn a desire for bold, reformative change into a ragtag collection of discrete, ad hoc initiatives excuse me. Less obviously, but perhaps more troublingly, it can also prevent the kind of meaningful discussion that keeps key stakeholders from pulling together towards a uniform approach. And I think one of the disabling factors in the sector is that all stakeholders don't pull together. You have those who are averse from transformation, who don't want to see transformation, are pretty happy with the status quo. You have government and those that are responsible for legislation, regulation, pulling in a manner that seems to disable the transformation of the sector. And then you have regulators and the professionals themselves having to deal with the frustrations on the ground on a day-to-day basis. In line with its mandate, the CBE must, by definition, be the initiator and facilitator of just this sort of top-level conversation around transforming the built environment. Without such an overarching facilitation and coordination, it's argued that no transformation program will stay focused, integrated, and balanced. Without balance, integration, and focus, no disjointed set of initiatives will lead to significant improvements and substantial transformational change. The acting chairperson of the CBE spoke about the need to be able to monitor, to have a definite program of action, and an implementation plan towards this transformation. Otherwise, we'll come back year after year and have the same conversation and lament about how the sector has just not transformed. The current baseline study and situational analysis on the status of transformation within the South African built environment was mainly commissioned to provide a substantial foundation on which the CBE and CBP could base the newly developed transformation model and action plan. Besides providing the most up-to-date registration statistics and trends within the 6 professions, the study also provided an important analysis of the current environment and situation in which transformation is intended to take place. The CBE finalized its revised transformation model and action plan in the 2016-17 financial year. This TMAP has been labeled a working document as it will constantly need to evolve in order to stay relevant. And we hope that the CBE and CBP are making sure that they are staying in line with current trends so that we are not misplaced and we are not irrelevant when we want to discuss and introduce ways to transform. This 2017 TMAP lists short, medium, and long-term plans, activities and interventions for fast-tracking the pace of transformation in the short term, whilst controlling for difficulties and bottlenecks in the middle of the skills pipeline, and ensuring effective transformation lower down the pipeline. And I think that if we don't begin at the entry point, that transformation over a period of time, a long period of time, will not be able to see that transformation. So it begins at the entry point as well. But of course, at the entry and how we take our colleagues and professionals across the entire value chain becomes important. Whilst realizing the urgency of fast-tracking transformation with a heavy focus on increasing the representation of specific demographics, the CBE also realized the absolute necessity to ensure sustainability in its approach. In order to have a steady supply of aptly skilled, quality-assured individuals to meet the future needs of the built environment professions, the South African built environment, and the country at large. We believe the CBE is fully cognizant of the reporting requirements from Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, as well as government as a whole, emphasizing a strong focus on registration numbers and an urgent priority to drastically increase the representation of previously disadvantaged groups among the professions, specifically focus on Black individuals and attaining equal representation as per the country's demographics. And of course, with the changing demographics, those targets have also got to be adjusted. So they would currently have to favor women and young Black women in particular. The CBE also realizes the necessity to ensure sustainability, warranting a steady supply of aptly skilled and quality-driven professionals to meet the future demands of the sector. This implies a clear focus on the entire skills pipeline in order to identify and address blockages throughout, streamlining processes and ensuring effective efficiency throughout. Furthermore, the CBE emphasizes the importance of active participation and inclusion of all relevant and affected role players in the development and implementation of our approach and strategy for transforming the professions. Not only will this ensure uniformity, but also create a sense of buy-in and ownership. And I think, given the current economic conditions that the country faces, which will include budget cuts from the state and the need to be able to look at other funding models for the delivery of social as well as economic infrastructure, you have to have buy-in from everybody involved. And if you don't have buy-in and ownership from everybody involved, you will not be able to address the current fiscal problems that we face, but also the economic decline that the country is under currently. Previous efforts aimed at driving transformation are implemented in organizations and departments. The net result is a number of disjointed interventions, most of which aimed at achieving the same outcome, which in itself is also and continues to be quite vague. The CBE has adopted a participatory approach towards achieving holistic transformation with a specific focus on the entire skills pipeline in order to streamline the process of becoming a registered professional and to ensure a continuous supply of quality-driven and aptly skilled individuals. To this effect, the CBE hosted its inaugural National Transformation INDABA in 2017, which specifically focused on bringing together the vast majority of stakeholders and role players in the sector and provided a platform for these high-level delegates to discuss commonly shared challenges. And I think from 2017 to date, many of those challenges still remain pretty much the same in the type of discussion that we would have had in 2017. It also provided a unique space for role players to collaborate and actively participate in joint initiatives driving transformation in the sector. There, a declaration of intent was signed by all stakeholders, with the second INDABA being held in February 2019. And there, the theme was igniting possibilities. This largely focused on embedding sustainability in our already adopted holistic approach towards transformation. Sustainability in its broadest sense is a concept that encapsulates the capacity to endure and to maintain a process or situation over time, which specifically addresses the holistic aspect of CBE's approach to transformation. And if you don't have this enduring, long-term, sustainable plan, all efforts that we introduce will not have longevity, will be introduced today, will not see its full life, and at some point or the other will end up dying its natural death. And I think if we want to be able to have transformation over a long period of time, we can't continuously introduce initiatives which end up dying. A snapshot of the CBEP registration indicates that the construction industry is still, unfortunately, male-dominated. By the end of the 2018-19 financial year, the register of professionals shows that 89% of individuals registered with the CBEP were male. Women make up more than half of South Africa's population. And I think if we have to address current demographics, that current population stats have to be translated into transformation agenda of any sector, the built environment professionals not being different. This demonstrates, therefore, the need to implement further mechanisms to offer females the correct assistance and support to ensure their representation in the BEPs. Enhancing the participation and leadership of women in the technically skilled workforce will generate a greater positive impact on our knowledge-based, technological, and highly competitive global economy. Now, the Department of Infrastructure Development and Property Management, of which I am the MEC of, employs a number of built professional environments. And I must say that in the short space of time that I've been at the department, some of our best performing project managers are actually females. And perhaps it's because of their attention to detail, the fact that they also have a lot to prove, they also work in an environment that has extreme pressures, and the fact that those barriers to entry, they've been able to break them, makes for them to be such highly competent individuals. And the majority of them are quite young women. And going forward, I would like to see even my own department employing more, especially women, because of just their work ethic in the space. The picture when it comes to registered candidates is still a matter of concern, and of course there all of us have the same difficulties. We rely on registered candidates to be able to provide and deliver the service that we have to provide for in line with our mandate. Males again dominating, accounting for nearly 3/4 of all candidates. Females only for 27%. There has been a slight improvement for females from 11% where they started as registered professionals, but there's definitely room for improvement. And we've got to make it more representative of the current South African society. The theme this year is breaking the barriers. And we aim to focus on various regulatory barriers to transformation in the sector, and let's look at potential solutions. And I think the acting chairperson, Mayor Mokhodi, identified one aspect that can be used as a solution to the current regulatory framework as well as public procurement that all of us have to adhere to. But I think if we identify a barrier, we've got to look at a solution to that barrier itself. And of course, the intention of legislation is not to be able to hamper development. It's not supposed to be able to take back development, but legislation is supposed to be used as a tool that enables development and of course enables transformation. And if it's not doing that, let's then look at how we can then change the legislation. So once we come up with solutions, we need to look for solutions that will free the struggles of small businesses. These small businesses find themselves suppressed by the policies that are meant to uplift their economic status. And any economist worth their salt will tell you that an ailing economy relies on SMMEs to boost the economy. They are creator of jobs and employment opportunities. And if we don't adequately and in a very direct and intentional way support SMMEs, will be contributing to the demise of the economy even further. I believe that delegates of this Indaba will come up with solutions that will move and prepare the built environment towards and beyond the 4IR. And I think the opportunity that the 4IR presents, especially in the built environment, can be used as an opportunity to include more Black professionals, women, youth, because it is a space that has not been entered into and has not yet been tested, especially in South Africa. So if we use 4IR as an opportunity to break other barriers, SMMEs can really flourish in that space. And of course, our policies as a country must enable us to do that. Given the stats that I've quoted, it is really clear that we have to look at different strategies to increase the participation and grow the skills pipeline of the industry. And given that we have definite and dedicated conversations in Gauteng with the institutions of higher learning, which includes TVET colleges, to be able to have conversations around what are the skills needed and how can we be better placed to produce those skills. The digital technologies have begun to enter the industry, gradually changing how infrastructure, real estate, and other built environment assets are designed, constructed, operated, and maintained. This raises the question, are we ready? Are we ready and are we geared to embrace the technologies that are changing the face, look, and feel of the industry? And how can we upskill the workforce that we currently have to meet those demands and the demands of the future? So therefore, also transformation also goes beyond quotas. And I think, of course, quotas is a good start, but it's got to go beyond that. And of course, then, in this context, it speaks to how we as a sector are able to design and innovate on the current sets of skills in order to meet the changes globally. Definitely, innovation is the name of the game as we strive to deliver more for less, on time, and according to budget. With these words, I therefore want to declare the 2019 Transformation INDABA open. Thank you very much.
Well, MEC, you may be seated. MEC, we thank you very much for that engaging delivery. You really touched on a number of very important matters and very important issues pertaining to the issue of transformation. And I'm certain that many of those matters will be incorporated as we move forward. So we listened attentively as you unbundled the subject matter. Ladies and gentlemen, we give her another round of applause, please. Now, having listened attentively to those compelling words, we will now actually allow you as the audience to engage the MEC via a question and answer session. In order to handle this session and answer question in orderly fashion, we will have just 2 rounds of questions with a maximum of 4 questions each. So we repeat that. We'll have just 2 rounds of questions with a maximum of 4 rounds each so that we handle it in an orderly fashion and so that we're also respectful to time. Okay, then let's begin. So there's already a couple of mics that are roving by at your disposal. We'll take the first set of questions. And please, before you unleash your question, please just quickly introduce yourself and then go ahead with the question. Let us take the first 4 questions for the first round. There is 1 question there, so we'll start there. The second one will be here. The third one will be at the back there, and then there's another one there at the back. So those are 4. Let's take them in that order, please.
Should I start? Okay, MEC, thank you very much. It's a very inspiring speech, and I'm grateful to be able to be here to hear it. My name is Amanda Gibbard, and I work in the Department of Transport. I'm responsible for universal design and universal access in public transport. And I was really inspired by your speech that you used the word about how the built environment is disabling all of us. I was a bit concerned that the groups that you identified didn't include people with disabilities, and I would ask for some guidance on that because it's so much part of the Constitution and it's a key group that I mentioned in the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act, and the need to design environments so that they accommodate all of us, whether or not we have disabilities, and to prepare for our old age and to include children is something that affects every single one of us. And I hope that the audience will look carefully at this building that we're in, because the entrances are not accessible. They do not comply. They are illegal. They're not unusual. There are many buildings in this state, and it's been allowed to happen. And we really need to do something about the effort that we put into compliance, because otherwise, you know, we will go to an early grave, because we'll all be tripping up and falling over in the buildings that we use. So I would just want some word to hear some words from you on that, and to get some guidance what we should do in government departments to push that agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's have the next ones. The next one is here, please.
Greetings to the city. So in terms of looking at the 4IR and the enablers and the key barriers to the entry, connectivity is one of the paramount structural elements that is needed to enable participation throughout the spectrum of the country. So what our framework is looking at enhancing the ICT and the connectivity and those other elements that are the support structure of the framework that will enable the area that you mentioned to have a holistic approach to be implemented, so that the maximum participation of those barriers that you mentioned are enabled and have a key participation role in how to transform the landscape of the built environment. So looking at those elements, in the catalyzing the transformation that we need to see, do we have a date or a framework that speaks directly on when and how the transformation is going to take place, and which areas will be enabled
Let's have the third one. Let's press the back.
Thank you, Program Director. MEC, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Chris Campbell. I'm the CEO of Consulting Engineers South Africa. I don't have a long shopping list. I'm normally not long-winded, so to the point. Just before you took office, there were a whole bunch of articles published, and they look very great and grand. And we support wholly the use of technology. But I did get worried when your predecessor intimated that you would in future be doing site inspections of your construction works simply using drones. I think one has to be careful and ensure that we have the appropriate use of technology and not look at replacing people in those sensitive processes. And then I also was alerted to the instances in your department of graduate young engineers being dragged along to construction sites, having no knowledge, never been mentored, and being coerced to sign off on contractors' certificates for payment. And now, we won't go into the detail as to why that became necessary. Those are but two examples. And to that end, we spent over 12 months being strung along by your predecessor, who refused to meet with us, where, as an association, much like many of the others in the room, we want to help your department do things right and get things right, because it's in our national interest of all of the people, especially people who had been left behind in the developmental process prior to 1994. So I would like to ask that you possibly avail yourself to a meeting with stakeholders. I'm not even going to be selfish and say meet with us, because I've already liaised with your office, and the lady in your office is trying to have some big circus tent occasion. I think that you, in your office, if you're serious about what you want to do, we as an industry are willing and would really like to assist you. And I think there are many of my colleagues in the room that would echo my sentiment. So I want to leave it at that. And thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much. Let's take the last one. Colleagues, in view of time, we're not going to have 2 rounds, as it were, so we're going to only have this one round. I've been informed that the MEC is pressed for time. So let's have the last one, and then we'll allow the MEC to respond.
Thank you very much, Program Director, for making sure that I'm squeezed into this one. Thank you very much. MEC, my name is Gregory Mufuke. I'm the CEO of the Black Business Council in the built environment. MEC, I still consider you and some of your colleagues new brooms. So we want to see the brooms working, MEC. We want to see things changing, MEC. And we don't want to hear only the talk, but we want to see that talk being translated into action. So when we talk about transformation, let's see real transformation, MEC. So we don't come to occasions like this and we just keep on making broad policy statements, but in reality we don't see this being translated into what the department is doing. Here's an example, MEC. The department went out on a tender to maintain lifts, fixing and so on. And it only allowed OEMs to tender. Now we have got a lot of startups and guys that have been in the lift industry